All right, we are going to go ahead and get right into it. I once again have my lovely buddy and my bestie, Tom from Curmudgeon Media, here in the corner. Well, we are here talking about the latest season 3 episode of Amphibia. These episodes were pretty chill. They were very wholesome, very like sweet, calm vibes. Nothing too crazy happened here. So let's go ahead and get into these episodes. I know that, Tom, you have to leave a little bit early today, so we'll try to keep today a little bit shorter. I have a feeling we're not going to get as in-depth with these 2 episodes just because there's not really as much that goes on, especially in terms of like plot and all that stuff. But there's still some really great moments, and there's definitely a couple little details that I want to draw some attention to. Let's go ahead and get right into the episode. We start, of course, with our normal usual new season 3 theme song, which is of course very fun and on Earth now. Yeah, I really enjoy the new theme song. It makes me very happy.
The new theme song and the new outro are both wonderful and fill me with joy.
Yes.
The outro particularly, just injection of dopamine directly into my brain.
Yes, yeah.
Into my tired adult brain.
Oh my god, yeah. The new intro has really grown on me. It really does give me that like immediate shot of serotonin.
As soon as I hear that little giggle and the hoopa de boopa, I'm sold. I'm there.
All right, so we start off with the first episode, Thai Feud, which is of course a pun on Thai food, which I thought was fun. Yeah, Thai food. I love Thai food. You said last week you were eating some like green curry or something, right? Was that Thai
green
curry?
I had some green Thai curry, yeah.
Nice.
I'm gonna make some red Thai curry as well in a couple days because I'm in that mood.
Dude, when it's winter, when it's like getting cold, starting to get cold, Thai curry is honestly one of my favorite like meals to eat. I am partial to the yellow Thai curry because I kind of like that little bit of like sweetness and like especially if it's got some spiciness in it, and it usually is like potatoes and sometimes chicken and stuff like that. But yeah, I really love Thai food. Thai food is some of my favorite food.
Generally just really good stuff, wholesome stuff. It makes you feel good. It gives you happy times.
Yes.
That's what we all want from life.
Absolutely. So Anne is pouring Polly some juice. Mrs. Boonchoi is making some eggs for the Planter family, and they're all very polite, right? Like Hot Pop's being like, "Oh, thank you, it's very delicious." Polly being like a precious little angel, right, as she usually is, being like, "Thank you for the eggs," and then Sprig being an absolute menace. He's like flying all over the place. He's swinging from the light bulbs. He's sticking his freaking tongue into the frying pan, which is absolutely horrifying. Like Mrs. Boonchoi's face here is absolutely what my reaction would be if someone stuck their face into my frying pan.
I gotta say, I do firmly believe in ponytail Anne supremacy.
Oh my god, yeah. Anne looks adorable in a ponytail.
But I also believe in Mrs. Boonchoi's supremacy because she's also just a very likable, cute, incredibly patient character.
Yeah, I really do love the Boonchoi parents, and obviously these episodes are both like really great. They're both really great in them. But yeah, I just continue to adore them, and they really do feel like especially Mrs. Boonchoi, right? Like the Asian mom kind of like archetype. Like it's just really nice to kind of see it done really well on screen, you know? Like a lot of times like people kind of default back to stereotypes, right? Like and even though Mrs. Boonchoi is like a strict mom, right? It's kind of a typical like scolding Asian mom. Like she's not a stereotype. She's like still very warm. She's still very caring. She's still very patient and understanding.
I saw that I think it's actually Matt Braley's own mom who voices her. Is that right?
Yes.
I saw, and you can't help but wonder if the character is just his mom having just been like transcribed to the pages of a screenplay.
Yeah.
And then animated.
Oh my god,
which is probably why it feels so authentic.
Absolutely, yeah. I think I saw a tweet from him earlier that was like the voice direction that they gave her was something along the lines of like, remember that time I broke that lamp when I was 5?
That's great.
And I was like, that's perfect. That's beautiful. I absolutely love that. And I love that too because like, there aren't really that many like prominent Thai older voice actors, right? Like Brenda Song is Thai, which is really awesome and perfect fit for
Mm.
Anne, but there aren't that many older Asian or even Thai specifically voice actors. So I think like in for that reason in particular, I think it's even more awesome that they decided to bring Matt Bradley's
Or at
mom.
least not that many that you see in Western media.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
would, I would, I would very much like to see. I've thought for the longest time, I would very much like to see some of the legendary kind of veteran voice actors from anime,
Oh,
coming
that'd be
over
cool.
to do some voice acting for us over here, where we're still like 10 steps behind.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
she is referencing that tweet, the I'm five and I broke a lamp. Go. That was the direction that he gave her, which is fantastic. And yes, Rooster, we got to get this little gremlin in check. Look at this gremlin hanging up on this fridge, eating a bottle of sriracha. Um, I love Sprig. I also like Sprig, very much enjoy my spicy food and my hot sauce. So I really I felt Sprig in this moment.
do you neck hot sauce from the bottle? Is
I
that your
don't I
thing?
don't do that. I'm not that crazy, but I do love hot sauce.
I don't want to know what that would do to someone's. I'm not going to finish that thought.
Obviously Mrs. Boone Choi is getting a little impatient with Sprig. Anne pulls him aside to have a little chat, and even Hop Hop is, kind of getting on Sprig's case here. Like, come on, you need to get it together. We're a guest in this household. You can't be acting like this. And Sprig, he's like, we're not just guests, we're family, right? He's kind of like already jumped the gun and skipped over the oh, I'm not going to be polite. I'm just going to act like I'm your son and, get all up in your eggs and your fridge and stuff.
I don't know about you, but I have known people who've done that while
I cannot
in the
relate.
company of my parents.
I cannot relate to this at all because like I'm such an anxious person and like whenever I meet someone's parents, I'm always like I have to be like the perfect polite robot in order to like make sure that they don't hate me. Like I relate to
I
Sprig in
no,
a lot of ways, but this is not one of them.
I totally agree. I'm the same, but I've had people who I've like invited around my house as a kid,
Yeah.
and they've just been like a total ass. And I've been like, "What are you doing?
Yeah,
Why are you acting like
I
this?"
get that. I totally get that. Yeah, Shia, I'm on the same page as you that um yeah, I'm 100% on the same page as you. Like I'm not like this at all with my friends' parents. But like yeah, I do know that there are people like this and like you said Tom, I'm sure we've all encountered friends like this.
I'm in your wheelhouse. I'm not quite as uptight though. I mean, I'm uptight on the inside, but like
Well, that's
my
good.
idea of my idea of etiquette is referring to everybody as mate.
Oh,
And in England, calling someone mate instantly like diffuses any tension. Like immediately, you go like, "Oh, would you mind doing something for me, mate?" Or like, "How's it going, mate? Would you mind this?" Or instantly diffuses tension by
right.
just slinging a little mate in there, easy peasy.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
my top tip for getting around in England. If you ever want anyone to
Yeah. I
be
feel
your
like
friend, or
that doesn't quite work in the US, but if you're ever in England, just throw a mate in
yeah,
there.
whenever American people say mate, it always want to commit a crime, mate. Come on over at midday, we'll commit a crime. Easy peasy. Yeah, when American people say mate, it sounds wrong.
Yeah, it's kind of yeah,
It sounds bad.
but I also I really relate to Anne's kind of sentiment here, right? Where she's like, you don't want to be in this family. If you're in this family, my mom is gonna yell at you. She's gonna scold you. She's never mean to guests. She's always super nice. And this is like exactly how my parents were like growing up too. Like whenever I had friends over, whenever I had people over, my mom was always so freaking nice to them. And she would be like, oh, do you want food? Oh, do you want like something to drink? And then she'll like make stuff. And then like, she's like, I love my mom. She's the best. But then like anything goes wrong, she will not hesitate to scold me. And one thing though that she never did is she never scolded me in front of my friends, which I always appreciated. She would always wait until they were gone and then she would scold me.
My mum is kind of she's kind of an odd one in mostly good ways. But I feel like I could sum my mum up as a person by saying a friend of mine who I went to uni with, who I lived with during my undergrad, didn't have anyone to spend Christmas with. So he
Mm.
spent Christmas with my mum. They had Christmas together.
That's fun.
And that was a surreal. He just sent me a picture. I'm like, oh, that's my mum. Huh. That's surreal.
That's funny. I love this little this little line from Polly, right? Like she's never gonna miss an opportunity to remind us that she has feet now, and so she's like, "I love being weighted on hand and foot, and I should know because I have feet now," which I absolutely love. Yeah, I Polly was really funny in these two episodes.
It's bizarre seeing. I don't remember if it's this episode or the next episode where Polly spends like 90% of it without the bow. It's real weird to see Polly without a bow.
Yeah,
Doesn't feel right.
that's true. That's true. She always looks a little off. You know, I appreciate this moment too because, like, you know, Sprig does kind of acknowledge, right? Like he's like, okay, I see what you're saying. I'll be better. And you know, Hop Hop's like, no worries, you course corrected, right? He says something along those lines, and then of course Sprig just he doesn't actually course correct. He goes completely back into his way of
He
thinking.
nearly ruins Guy Fieri's life.
That's true. You know, Anne needs to go help out at the restaurant. Sprig wants to come. And this is one little nugget that I wanted to just draw some attention to. So, you know, even though these episodes like don't really focus on the main plot, there is sort of these little tiny steps that are being taken in order to advance the main plot. So Anne tells Hop Hop and Polly here, right, to research some portals and junk while they're gone. And even though this is kind of like played as a gag, like it is kind of showing that they are trying to learn things about, like, you know, how to get back to Amphibia and like how to, you know, accomplish the big goals that they're trying to do right now. But of course, there's no actual real research on portals, at least not yet in what we know of in this universe. So Polly pulls out these two DVDs of Starsgate, sorry, and Quantum Hop, which
Which is obviously Stargate and Quantum Leap.
yeah,
And I loved that.
yeah, I love the references. And you know, Hop Hop being like Quantum Hop, Quantum Hop. That was quite funny.
Quantum Leap was a good show. I stand by that.
Yeah, I haven't watched it myself, but I've heard good things about it.
It was just fun. It was just neat. It was a neat show.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Rooster Tamer in the chat says, that her being without the bow is weird because it's like half of her character design.
It is quite literally half of her character design. It is as tall as she is. So it's like it's got to be like at least, you know, 35% of her entire like body mass.
Yep.
And without it, it's like, okay, this is weird. This doesn't feel right. This is just a grape with arms and legs.
Yeah. I love all the little details again that is included in these backgrounds, right? The Thai restaurant like has just all these adorable little details. I love also this just moment of Mr. Boon Choi, you know, taking the seed out of the lychee and like tossing it to Anne. Like that's just really cute. There's a little post-it note that says Grub Dub order. That's really cute. Considering how much Hop Hop loves Suspicion Island, he must be in heaven with how much human media he has access to. Yeah, that's a good point, Rooster. I'm sure
And
Hop
just
Hop
a
is
whole lot of
binging.
stuff that's presumably a hell of a lot better than Suspicion Island.
Hopefully. I really enjoy this moment between Anne and her dad, and you know, Sprig is kind of watching on this, kind of being like, oh, the being part of the Boon Choi family is just so great, and here I am stuck as a guest with my Thai iced tea, right? Like, I really do feel for Sprig in this episode too. And, you know, a couple people have pointed out that, you know, a lot of Sprig's behavior in this episode makes a lot of sense. You know, his desire for family, his need for a bigger family, or his desire for a bigger family. Because as we know, Sprig and Polly did lose their parents when they were young.
But also,
yeah,
he has an obsession with making people like him, as we learned.
Yes, that's true.
From his behavior around Mrs. whatever her name was,
Mrs. Croker.
Mrs. Croker. Yeah, for some reason I want to say Mrs. Kramer. I'm like, no, that's not her name. It's not Mrs. Kramer. Tom, don't say that.
Close enough.
But yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's a really good point. Sprig has this like characteristic of wanting to be liked by other people, and also, yeah, he kind of does have just like that desire for, you know, wanting to be mothered, which is a little sad, but like, you know, it's understandable for where Sprig is coming from. I love Thai iced tea. Have you drank Thai iced tea before?
I have,
It's great.
and it's wonderful.
It's lovely.
Very tasty.
We got to give some acknowledgement to this character Ned here. One thing that I do want to
Wayne
point
Knight.
out.
Immediately you hear that voice and you're like, that's Wayne Knight. How
Is
is he
that who
still
it is?
alive?
Is that who it
Yeah,
is?
it's Wayne Knight.
I didn't
You
recognize him.
immediately hear that and you're like, that's Wayne Knight. That couldn't be anyone else.
That's amazing. That's
That's
beautiful.
whatever his name is. Is he in Seinfeld? He's not in. Is he in Seinfeld? I don't remember.
I don't know.
Um, yeah, they only ever hire him to play a very particular kind of character, and it's this guy.
That's amazing. A couple things that we do have to acknowledge here, that I've seen some folks point out online. This guy is wearing a shirt. Have you noticed this
He's
stuff?
Guy Fieri. He's Guy Fieri.
He is Guy Fieri. He's got the flames on his shirt. But do you know what his pink t-shirt is a reference to?
I can't see it. What does it say?
So his t-shirt says Romance Academy on it, which eagle-eyed fans and those with great memories who have watched the show Gravity Falls might remember the episode where Seuss picks up a video game and it's called Romance Academy, and it has this like pixelated girl who like takes over the technology.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that?
I do remember that. That episode had fallen to the back of my brain, but now you're jogging it.
Yeah. So this is a reference to that, which is really fun. And I don't know. I don't want to think too hard about what that implies for this universe, though. Whether that means Giffany is a real entity that is potentially a threat in the Amphibia universe.
It's a hell of a lot better than femto being a thing that exists in the world of the Owl House.
Is that the Berserk? Or no?
Yeah. Yeah, it's Berserk. It's a hell of a lot better than that.
Good point. Good point. Although there are Berserk references in this too, right?
There are, but they're always like references to specific like panels and famous kind of iconic moments rather than horrible nightmare characters that you don't want to be thinking about while you're watching your kids show.
Good point. Good point.
Cartoon for literal children.
Good point. But I love the continued like just Gravity Fall references. There's a lot of them in this show, and it was just kind of neat to see another one.
They're all buddies. They're like a big clubhouse of friends who like each other and admire each other's work.
Yeah. I love these little photos of Ned. You know, he's the number one customer. I love that there's this like family photo of when Anne was little. There's a photo of him eating like spicy food, which is fun. But yeah, you know, he's obviously a big fan of their restaurant, right? Which is what we learned here. Yeah, he's an interesting character, right? So he's really fun. He wants to start a food truck for their restaurant, right? And so he's like, if only you'll give me your recipes, then I could, you know, sell your food on the go, right? And we would just make so much money together if you would just share your recipes with me, right? Yeah, and exactly what Shia is saying in the chat here, you know, this guy's begging to share the recipe so that he can help all of them make more money. But, you know, Anne's mom is really adamant about, no, the recipes are for family only. I'm not going to share them. And this guy's just like, well, when you change your mind, I'll be right outside, right? And this is the other kind of thing that is really frustrating for Anne's mom, is that this guy is set up right outside their restaurant, and it's literally taking their business away from their actual restaurant, right? Like, this is kind of a funny scene that we get with this guy being like, OMG, I'm so confused. I'm gonna like fall to the ground in confusion. And it's very dramatic and funny. But also, like, this is a serious thing, right? Like, they're deterring business from them.
I mean, two things. First of all, Guy Fieri is not known for having any sense of taste or he's like, apparently he's like a super nice guy, but you don't look at Guy Fieri and think, wow, that's a guy with like a sense of like sensitivity towards things that aren't going to make him loads of money.
Sure.
But also in this guy's defense, and it's very, very mild defense, he couldn't move his truck if he wanted to because the brakes are broken.
That's true.
It's not road legal right now. So it's been sat there for a while because he still hasn't got the brakes fixed.
That's a good point. But that's still on him. That's still totally his fault.
It's only a mild defense. It's not like an actual defense. Like, he's still Guy Fieri.
Yeah, yeah.
And Guy Fieri is not a name that's associated with anything but general internet ridicule.
Um yeah, it's not a good look, right? Shia says that's insidious, but yeah, it's not a great look to be taking the customers away from this restaurant that you supposedly love so much, right? Um Sprig notices this, right? And he's got this like ultimate gremlin energy this episode. He, starts concocting this plan. If someone were to solve this issue for Mrs. Boon Choi, then they would have to be a part of the family, right? She would have to consider them part of the family. And having now accepted this role as being the responsible one and taking care of the planters is like, no, don't do it. I'm watching you, little frog man. Just don't do it.
I have to praise Anne for having hair that's constantly incredibly voluminous, no matter what she does with it.
Oh yeah.
It's enviable.
Anne's got great hair. Sprig comes up with this plan, right, where he's gonna go and he's got his little disguise on. He's got like cans tied to his feet to make him a little taller. He grabs some food and then he takes a bite and he rips his coat open to reveal his pink skin, being like, this food turned me pink. And then of course the plan does not go the way he envisions it to go, and this guy is like, hey, I want to be pink too. Which is kind of funny, right?
What is his reasoning again?
I don't even know. Just like, I wouldn't mind being pink.
He says something afterwards about why he wouldn't mind being
pink.
Oh,
maybe it'll
catch what it was.
According to the captions, it's maybe it'll help me with my next Star Trip audition, which I think is a reference to the Stargates that we saw earlier.
Oh, I think Star Trip is Star Trek.
Yeah.
Rather than Stargate. That would be Star Trek, wouldn't
it? So it seems that this guy's an actor and wants to be pink to audition, which, hey, they are in LA, so...
Fair enough.
Chior says, I don't like Sprig in this episode. Yeah, I get where you're coming from, but I do think Sprig's behavior is understandable, and he is also just a kid, so we can forgive him a little bit.
Sprig means well.
Yeah,
he's a dumb little brain idiot, and like at least give him a little leeway for having less brain cells than he maybe should.
Oh, he's just a little guy. He's just
a little idiot. He means well.
Sprig is like, that was a lie. Did you just call us all morons? And then obviously he's pissing these people off, right? I do love the comedy of this, right? Of this guy being like, did you just call us all morons? Immediately before he like shoves his face into his bowl of noodles. Like the comedy in both of these episodes, but especially in this episode, is really, really good.
There's a whole bit that I'm just sat here waiting to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
You know what it is.
Absolutely. So Sprig pisses these people off. They're all yelling at him. They're causing a commotion. Anne and Mrs. Boon Choi notice this, and they're like, oh, God, frickin' Sprig. We got to go take care of this again. And I do kind of love that Anne and Mrs. Boon Choi are kind of like working in parallel here. Like they both got like a similar expression. They both got like the red bandana and the aprons on, right? They're just like working in a pair right now. And I have to kind of wonder, like, how much of this is because of Anne's character growth. I can't imagine her necessarily being like this, before her time in Amphibia. But I just thought it was really cute, just like her and her mom like acting together.
We know she says in season 1 that she did help out in the restaurant.
Sure.
And she clearly is super proficient with it because she takes Stumpy's and turns it into like a proper swanky place.
That's true.
So, I mean, that's not to downplay how much she's changed, but I do get the feeling like there is an element of her which is already kind of very familiar with this.
Of course.
At least to some degree, behaving in this way before she left. This is her element.
Yeah.
She grew up with this.
Yeah, absolutely. I really love this moment as well too, because we do kind of get like a tiny little fake out moment, right, where Anne's mom is angrily pointing her finger up and looking at Sprig, but then instead of yelling at Sprig, she turns and does a 180 and immediately points to Anne and is like, Anne, this behavior is unacceptable. Like, really driving it home that, she's not going to yell at a guest. She's going to yell at her daughter.
It's yeah. I mean, that's how it goes.
Yeah.
That's definitely how it went for me as a kid. If any of my visiting friends were assholes.
Yep. Sprig is like, why'd she yell at you, not at me? And Anne, explains like she's not about to yell at a guest, Sprig, and she's only gonna yell at family. And Anne is annoyed at this, right? Like she's annoyed that Sprig's behavior is, giving consequences to her. But Sprig takes this line as kind of rubbing it in, right? And Sprig is like very hurt at this revelation that he didn't get yelled at because he's not considered family.
The faces are always so good.
The faces are great. Again, Anne is understanding. She's like, I get why you're doing this, but like, please chill out because otherwise I'm going to be scrubbing the bathroom with a toothbrush for the rest of my life. And
is that the rest of season 3 confirmed?
Yeah, there we go. That's all we're about to see for the rest of season 3 is Anne just scrubbing the bathroom.
Just 20 episodes of that, 10 minutes a pop.
Yep. Sprig is not very sneaky at all. He's like, knock it off or knock it on. And Anne is just like, I heard that.
Such a little dork.
He's adorable. I love him. He, of course, scurries off and he decides he's going to ruin this man's life. The way that he says that line here, where he's like, time to ruin a man's life. It reminded me of in episode 1 where they're like, time to rob an old man.
Go rob an old man.
So Sprig sneaks a note to Ned saying, that Mrs. B wants to talk to him. But in the meantime, he's being an absolute little gremlin child and deciding to destroy a man's livelihood. But of course, not before shoving all the toothpicks in his mouth.
Guy Fieri doesn't count as human, so you can do whatever you want.
Aww. I'm sure he's fine.
I'm joking. Life. I've heard nothing but generally good things about Guy Fieri as a person.
Yeah. So Anne's taking the trash out, and of course she notices that Sprig is being a gremlin and is like, no, this is not happening. And she manages to stop him kind of just in the nick of time. She gets into the van herself, and Sprig has this line of like, I'm squirming my way into your mom's heart, right? Which is very telling. Like he's kind of acknowledging here that like he does kind of have to force his way a little bit, and he doesn't seem to care though.
Can we talk about the fact that this guy literally has like what appears to be like a bobblehead / Funko Pop of himself? Like what looks like a Funko Pop of himself.
I think it's supposed to be a Funko Pop of Guy Fieri, but he also just dresses like Guy Fieri.
Guy Fieri has like the frosted tips, doesn't he? Guy Fieri has the iconically frosted tips.
Yeah, but also I don't know, maybe he does just have a bobblehead of himself.
Or maybe they didn't want to get sued by Guy Fieri, so they were like, we need to have some kind of difference.
A little bit of difference, yeah.
But give him the spiky hair, but we're not going to give him those frosted tips.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably more likely. They accidentally hit the gear shift, of course, and the truck starts moving. And in the meantime, Anne's mom is examining the note that was given to Ned and notices that it is signed Mrs. B, which is, of course, what Sprig has been calling Mrs. Boonchoy this whole time. And so she's actually very quick on it. She's able to put it together really quickly that this was Sprig's doing. And I love this line that she has where she's like, "Pink frog." It's just very fun, very funny. I adored Anne's mom in this episode.
And he even gets promoted from Pink Frog to Sprig by the end of the episode.
That's right. It's very cute. That's very cute.
The Boonchoy parents are wonderful characters. And they've only been in like 2 episodes, like 3 episodes at this point.
Yeah.
And they're still great.
I already adore them. This was also kind of a fun moment, right? Where the two of them, Mrs. Boonchoy and Ned in tandem, are like, "Your food truck, my food truck," which is always fun. And this whole sequence, which I will definitely let you talk about, Tom. This whole sequence was freaking hysterical. This was so funny. I absolutely died laughing during this whole sequence. This, like, if you guys haven't actually seen the video that Tom and I worked on together over on the Curmudgeon Media channel, this whole sequence is a really good example of like some of the stuff that we were talking about in that video.
It's such a perfect example that it's almost regrettable that we hadn't held off a couple of weeks until
Yeah.
this episode came out, because it exemplifies everything we talk about towards the end of that video better than any other example, I think, in the entire show.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we get too deep into the sequence, let's just go through a play-by-play of what happens here, right? So the car starts moving, and says something along the lines of like, I haven't driven a car before, but I have driven Bessie, and I played 900 hours of Super Wario Kart, and so I should be able to do this. Which, I can relate to that. I've played a decent amount of Mario Kart, and it's not too different from actual driving. She tries to hit the brakes, but of course we quickly learn that Ned is fairly irresponsible himself. Ned, you rascal, don't forget to fit the brakes. Fix the brakes, heart Ned. And we learned that he has not been keeping his brakes in check and has not fixed them yet. And of course they're careening. Sprig tries to pull the GPS screen out of the dashboard, and he's like, "It's okay, whoa girl, whoa girl." And Anne's like, "No, dude, that only works with snails. Like, that doesn't work with cars." And here's where things really start popping off and getting off the rails, right? We see this like ramp of this like sheet of metal that's like on a bunch of trash cans. And our first thought is like, oh, they're gonna go flying off this ramp and go careening somewhere, right? But
Can we just like take a quick moment to acknowledge the incredible Anne screaming face?
Oh yeah,
Which
we
is
we have to acknowledge the Anne screaming face. The 180-degree Sprig face is back too.
It's one of the only times we've seen Anne appear to do the 180-degree face as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, it's so good. Okay, so they go careening into the trash cans, right? The ramp ends up not sending them flying, and they just crash into it, right? And there's a moment of relief. They're like, "Oh, phew, thank God we didn't go flying into the air or anything like that." But they spoke too soon. They, of course, bloodshot eyes notice that there's this little turtle on the road, and it's so small. It's so ridiculous. This little turtle notices them and hides inside its shell, and of course, in no tether to reality. The truck ends up hitting the turtle and goes flying into the air, which is just, oh my God, it's so funny. It's so ridiculous.
It's, I mean, it's so layered in its absurdity.
Yeah.
And like in the video that we made, we talk about this idea of reversal and this idea of subverting our expectations of
Yeah.
how something is going to play out. And the idea that the way a lot of absurdist humor works is by not just subverting expectations, but like shattering them completely and launching them out the window into a different realm of reality, and it's the first kind of gag of this little section is where they're careening down the street and they see the ramp, and obviously our brain is immediately thinking, oh, they're going to go up the ramp, and then it doesn't, because it's a flimsy piece of like corrugated steel or something, and they just smash right through it and it goes everywhere and anything. And the first joke is that it's subverting our expectation of how cartoons work,
Right.
Of how we expect the physics of how a cartoon functions,
Right.
is different to how
we expect the truck to go flying because that's how it would work in a cartoon.
Yeah, and so the first joke is this initial reversal of how we expect it to play out as a cartoon.
Yeah.
But then it does a double reversal by having this bit with the tortoise, which like At once, I haven't played enough Mario Kart, but I feel like it's a Mario Kart thing.
Oh, it might be.
But like they hit it and like they just disappear.
It just goes straight into the air, which is so funny. Like it
And
doesn't
so
make any sense. This flip that this turtle shell makes the truck do, it doesn't make any sense.
it does a double reversal
Oh, it's so
where
funny.
it like breaks the laws of physics beyond the realm of what even a cartoon normally does,
Yeah.
and into a completely like it reminded me so much. In the video I really wanted to make reference to a movie called Top Secret.
Mm.
Uh and this feels very Top Secret to me. There's a Top Secret does an awful lot of humor just like this, where they will toy with physics, and there's a joke in Top Secret, and it's all throwaway. Like it's totally throwaway humor, and that's what I love about this. Like the absurdity of it makes absolutely no difference to the direction of the narrative in any way.
Yeah.
It's not really properly acknowledged,
Yeah.
and they sort of go about as per normal. There's a bit in Top Secret then when they punch a Nazi, which you should always do. They punch a Nazi and he falls off the side of this castle wall, and then he hits the ground and shatters into porcelain. And this is that,
Yeah.
right? When they hit the tortoise and they go careening into the air, and there's like and the effect, like the actual visual effect of the truck
Yeah.
disappearing into the sky, it feels like they did it on Blender in 2 minutes, and they were like, we want this to look as unrealistic as possible. We want there to be absolutely no kind of like curve in its velocity. We want it to just like ascend.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
wanted to touch this tortoise and just ascend.
Yeah. It's exactly what Rooster is saying in the chat here. Reality shattered because Disney won't let them run over a turtle.
But it's so much better this way. I
Yeah.
don't want to think about how much less funny this joke would have been if they'd run over a turtle,
No,
like,
yeah,
or
this
a
this is so
tortoise.
funny. And then this next section of this gag just absolutely had me just cackling with laughter. It was so freaking funny. First of all, this whole scenario doesn't make any freaking sense whatsoever. This guy's letting his neighbor borrow his TV, but for some reason he's like handing it over to him across their balconies for some reason. And
Yeah.
like how did they even get it in this position? Like it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Like how did they lift it into this particular precarious position? Like it doesn't
It
make any
is
sense.
it's utterly contrived.
Yeah.
It is that thing of going from one direction to another direction in 0 seconds flat, because
Yeah.
it's not just that it makes that choice to launch them into the air in the most ridiculous way possible. It's that it paves the way for the gag with that first bit where it's like, no, we're going to play this out realistically,
Yeah.
and they're like, no,
No, we're not.
psych, you.
This guy is like, thanks for letting me borrow your TV. And he's like, hey, no worries, just be careful with it. This thing is like a son to me. And then right on cue, this thing is like a son to me. Crash straight right through it. It shatters into a million pieces.
Utterly atomized.
Oh my god. I absolutely just cackled at this gag. It was so funny. Obviously, I feel bad for this guy who lost his son in this tragic accident, but
And it is that thing where like all of these jokes are layered on top of each other in the span of like 10 seconds.
yeah, it's just so fast. It's so fast. It doesn't give you time to laugh, even though it's so funny. Oh, he's in absolute tears. Like it's just hilarious. It's so funny. And sees the sign for the skate park and needs Sprig to help her make a hard left. And he sticks his tongue out the window and wraps her on this pole so that they can like turn and stuff, which is always fun. But one thing I do just want to point out as well is that this girl, who's wearing the bucket hat and got the earrings, she's actually the girl that we see in the next episode too, in the shawarma restaurant. So I thought that was fun.
Karen,
aka
whose
Emily.
name is not Karen.
And so, they careen, they turn, and they get into the skate park, right? Which is the next really fun bit of this truck gag.
Yeah, the joke is still going. That's the thing. Like we talked about it like the joke is over, but it's not. Like
No,
it's not
it's
even
still
supposed
going.
to be done.
Still going, right? They're absolutely flying through the skate park, and this is just so funny, right? Because like, there's no way in reality a truck would ever act like a skateboard. But in this scene, the truck is freaking grinding on the rails and like, yeah, it's just very over the
Oh
top,
my
very
god.
funny.
And it does all look like it's been animated on Blender, and I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, what skate park have a loop that that a truck could fit onto? Yeah, it's very not quite up to skate park code, I think.
I think that every skate park should have accessibility for
I
trucks.
agree. This would be amazing.
You know, where's Guy Fieri supposed to go? Think about Guy Fieri.
Oh, we got to think about him. We got to. Otherwise, he's just out on the
No,
street. Where would he go?
otherwise out on the street, no one's ever thinking about Guy Fieri. Shaking my head.
Oh my god. This is a funny moment, right? Where they're like, "I don't believe it. We did it." And then, almost this is impossible, right? There's no freaking way that Anne's mom and Ned would be here like that quickly. But of course they are because it's a cartoon. I can't believe this. We did it. And then of course Anne's mom saying, "I don't believe this," right? Like it's just that repetition is funny. And Ned is like, "I can't believe you sent your daughter to destroy my truck. This is insane." And Sprig owns up to it in this moment. This is where Sprig, finally kind of comes together in this character moment where he acknowledges that it's all his fault and this had nothing to do with Anne or Anne's mom. And he admits that he just wanted to be part of the family, and instead of pestering, he should have respected their boundaries. And so like I'm really glad that Sprig did learn this lesson at the end here, and it is very kind of sweet. And what I really wasn't expecting from this episode as well is they do kind of touch on this idea of cultural appropriation, right? Which I wasn't expecting them to talk about this in this episode, but I think they did a really good job kind of acknowledging this kind of phenomenon, right? And shout out to Ned for actually like acknowledging his mistake, right? He does admit that he just loved their restaurant so much he wanted to be a part of it, but he and Sprig kind of have like a parallel character journey in this episode where they realize that they have been really trying to force their way in. They're not being respectful of the boundaries. And he even says out loud that like I was wrong and it was just a gross appropriation of your culture, right? And
I gotta say,
yeah, go ahead.
I honestly thought Wayne Knight was dead. You
Really?
know, it wasn't until Infinity Train that I was like, oh, Wayne Knight's not dead.
Wait, who's he in
Honestly, I
Infinity
thought
Train?
he's the weird, in the cartography place, the cartography car.
Oh, he's Marcel.
He's the big sun cloud friend who
That's
wants to
funny.
keep
Oh
them
yeah,
there.
their voices actually sound this character obviously and that character sound the same, which makes sense. It's
That's because it's
the same
the same
person.
voice
Yeah,
actor.
that makes sense. That makes
But
sense.
like, first thing I ever saw him in was Jurassic Park, and I thought he was dead from then. From like the second
Wow.
I saw him, I don't know why. Someone told me he was dead. I was like, oh, I guess the guy's dead. And then, I mean, he's not dead. Here he is, apologizing for his gross appropriation of culture.
Yeah.
Good for him. Good for Wayne Knight.
But yeah, I just really appreciated that this episode did kind of acknowledge that, right? Because, as someone who is Asian myself, I have met many people like Ned who want to try to make money off of something that is not a part of their culture. And what I do really appreciate about Ned and the end of this episode, right? He does genuinely just want to be a part of the restaurant, and instead of learning the recipes himself and taking over and like making the food himself in his little food truck or whatever, he is happy with just like the delivery job, right? Of like delivering the food to people. And I feel like this is a really nice kind of like, maybe metaphor isn't quite the right word, but like this is like a really nice way of like how to be an ally, right? Like how to support people of color, how to like appreciate culture versus appropriating it, right? Like you don't want to ever overstep and like take over, but you want to support, right? Like you want to uplift. That's the idea, right? And just think about how many more people are going to get to taste the Boon Choi food now that like they can deliver and stuff like that, right? So this is like helping her, but it's not overstepping, right? Which I really love this kind of like conclusion to this arc.
We're always happy to see Wayne Knight having existential realizations about ethnicity, culture, and
Yeah.
identity.
Yeah. I really appreciated it. And I wasn't expecting it from this episode or even like at all on the show, but I really appreciated it and I'm glad that they touched on it because I think it's an important lesson just in
It is,
general.
yeah. And they do it in a way that's easy to digest for the younger viewers, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I
Um
have to say,
yes.
when you said as someone who is Asian myself, I immediately pictured that in the form of that Norman Osborn meme. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
I think so. I think so.
I'm something of a scientist myself, that one.
Yeah, yeah. I'm something of an Asian myself.
No one make that, please. I don't want to get Willem Dafoe cancelled for something he didn't do or say.
No. Sprig is like, okay, great, that's all resolved, and he's ready to, wipe his hands off and keep going, but not so fast if you think you're getting out of here without an earful. And I love that everyone tends to pick Sprig up by like his scruff. Like this isn't the first time this has happened either, and I think it's funny. Um, but she picks Sprig up and begins giving him an earful, right? And this is that moment where I think Matt Bradley was like, "Imagine I broke a lamp when I was 5." How dare you disobey me? How dare you put Anne and yourself in danger? Which, again, like, she's not just yelling or she's not just scolding for the sake of like being strict, and she's not just scolding just because like she wants to have control over everything, but like, she is like, how dare you put yourself in danger, right? Like this is very much like a loving scolding, right?
One that comes from a place of concern.
Exactly. And I absolutely adore Sprig's face here, and he's just absolutely loving the fact that he's getting told off here because you're scolding me, which means and then there's this really cute moment, where Anne comes and gives him a little light tap and is like, "You're a part of the family now, buddy." Like, oh, it's just very sweet, very, very wholesome. And Sprig gives Mrs. Boonchoy a hug, and she's like, "I'm already having second thoughts," which is funny. But yeah, that was a really, really, really just wholesome ending, really sweet ending with Sprig officially being a part of the Boonchoy family, which is very, very sweet. Any other thoughts on this episode before we take a break, Tom?
No, I love it. It's funny. Gave me a rib tickle.
Yeah. One thing that I do want to just kind of point out, just kind of just drop a little nugget in this episode. We paused for a brief moment when we got to that point, but Sprig did stick his tongue out the window, and that girl Emily, aka Karen, did notice that there was a tongue on a pole. So I just wanted to just throw that out there that someone did eat Sprig's tongue.
I also want to say the garnish on the incredible layered double reversal gag with the truck. The garnish, the mint leaf, if you will, is Guy Fieri. I refuse to call him Ned because he's not Ned, he's Guy Fieri. Guy Fieri getting in the damn truck and driving away in it.
Yeah, that's kind of just like the icing on the cake, right?
After all of that.
He just goes. He's just like, "Oh, I gotta get these brakes fixed." Oh,
How is he gonna get
good.
it to stop? If he's gonna drive away in that thing, how is he
We
gonna
are
make
not
it stop?
we are not meant to ask these questions.
Maybe, I mean, he could be dead. If we never see him again in the
He could
rest of
be.
the series,
He could be.
we should probably presume him dead in a fatal food truck accident.
Oh, so tragic. Rip in peace, Ned.
Rest in spaghetti, never forgetty.
Oh man.
I am gonna duck out.
Yes, Tom is going to leave us because he could only stay for a little bit today. So everyone say thank you to Tom for hanging out with us for this first half of the stream. Really appreciate you, buddy. Thanks so much for hanging out. Really, really love always talking to you about the show. Do you want to say do you want to say anything about the next episode really quick before you go?
I do. First of all, I want to say, obviously it goes without saying, we're going to say it anyway. The bit at the end with the Anne's dad is wonderful.
Yes.
And wholesome.
Yes.
Made my cold, lifeless heart beat. But also, you could make a catalog out of the hot pop faces
Yes.
in that episode. They're
Yeah.
majestic.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's some really great expressions or some really great moments and stuff. And something that I do want to tell you, Tom, before you go, something that I am going to talk about in this stream while you're gone is that a lot of moments where they are trying to be sneaky and like get away with like pretending to be human, they end up not really being successful in, which I think is going to come into play later in the season. But I'm going to talk about that more as we get there.
I
But
think
it's
that's reasonable because we know. I mean, we've seen there is that clip in the intro of someone who looks very FBI-ish
yep,
chasing them in a truck.
yep.
So we know that there are going to be other nefarious human characters with nefarious motivations who will be introduced, and they are honestly doing a very bad job at subterfuge.
Yeah, yeah.
Terrible,
They're not
terrible job
great.
at subterfuge. Um, Turns out that just saying I could really use a coffee isn't quite enough
Doesn't quite work. Doesn't quite work.
to mask the fact that you're literally a different species.
Yeah, yeah. But we'll be talking about that in the second half. At least I will be talking about that alone. But thank you so much, Tom, for hanging out with me today. Really, really appreciate you as always. And Shia, thank you for dropping the links. If you guys aren't following Tom's content yet, follow him on Twitter, follow the Curmudgeon Media Twitter, follow the Curmudgeon Media YouTube channel. Yeah, just check out their stuff. They're really great. I hope you all are enjoying yourselves so far, and we're gonna go ahead and just jump right in and get into the next episode for this Amphibia discussion. And we're going to be talking now about Adventures in Catsitting, which I think has been a little bit of an anticipated episode just because, you know, we got a lot of hype all the way back from season 1 about how great Domino was as a cat. And now we are finally getting an adventure featuring Domino, the original Domino, Domino 1, the cat, not Domino 2, the scary, monstrous moth caterpillar demon that eats frogs. But we get a really fun little episode with Domino here, and I'm really excited to get into this one. So we start off right with this little cute just montage of Domino just being freaking adorable and a really great cat. You know, she does this little thing where she tries to catch the fly and tries to eat it, but then spits it back out, right? And then she does this thing where she's like flopping all over the staircase as she's coming down the stairs, which is really, really cute, right? Animated cats in general are always just top tier, just so good, so squishy, so fun, so funny. Just really enjoy you know, these just cat moments, right, of Domino knocking stuff over onto the ground. Just very typical cat behavior, very, very adorable. uh, and these moments kind of come into play later, right? Like we see Domino being really into this ball of yarn, which is of course how Polly ends up getting Domino's attention later in the episode. So this was just like another one of those fun little like plot nuggets, right? Where it's something that like seems like a little bit of a gag at the beginning, but ends up being really important later in the episode. So yeah, we see Domino just being a cat, just being a real good cat and playing with this yarn. Just very, very cute. This is a moment that I wanted to draw some attention to in particular because like I mentioned in this first episode, right? They are still thinking about it. They are still trying to figure out ways to how they could potentially open the portal and go back to Amphibia, right? Like, you know, even though it is kind of played for laughs, you know, with Hop Hop and Polly watching Quantum Leap or Quantum Hop rather. And then, you know, Anne reading these science magazines where she's like, ugh, what are these guys even doing? They're not even doing anything useful. They're not even making portals or anything like that. Like, what a waste of time. And of course, the gag being diarrhea cured and world hunger solved. So obviously, science is not being completely useless, but at least they're not being useful for Anne's purposes, or at least the planters' purposes of trying to get back to Amphibia. But I thought that this was just like a really fun little gag that we got here. So at least, you know, we have to worry about robots and killer frogs and an evil newt king overlord trying to take over our world, but at least we don't have to worry about diarrhea or world hunger, am I right? There is some continuity. Yeah, exactly, Shia. They are still trying to figure stuff out. Rooster Tamer says, I know they are animals, but why are almost all the pets We see borderline feral in this episode. Yeah, I think it's just like for fun, right? World hunger is solved, but yeah, let's go back to Frogland. Exactly. Like, who cares about world hunger being solved? We got to get back to Amphibia. This is again a really cute moment, right? Where Hop Hop is very much enjoying his time on Earth. He's like, we'll find our way back to Amphibia eventually. You know, Earth is very much relaxed compared to Amphibia, but also he is a guest in the the Boon Choi household. You know, he's enjoying kind of being waited on as we saw in the first episode too. Mr. Boon Choi refilling his glass of lemonade, which is very sweet. And, you know, Hop Hop is pretty polite. He's like, oh, you don't have to do that. And Mr. Boon Choi being like, please, you're our guest. Like, it's just very, very sweet, very polite. No one's kind of acting badly here, which I really just love and appreciate. I love seeing these families interact. Dad Pop. Oh, we gotta love Dad Pop. I really hope we get their names, like, at some point. Like, Mr. and Mrs. Boon Choi is all we kind of know them as. But yeah, I like Dad Pop. Dad Pop is cute. And Polly's wearing this little hat. It's just very cute. Yeah, I haven't been this pampered in ages. It's very sweet. Polly clapping her feet together, which is cute. You know, Hop Hop, but Hop Hop, what I really always love about him and appreciate about him is that he's a very honest character. He's really he really values his integrity. He really values his pride. And I really do appreciate that about Hop Hop, right? Like we got episodes of him in season 1 and 2 of him kind of really struggling with his honesty, but at the end of the day, always kind of coming back to like, no, the truth is the most important thing. And like being a good person, being a noble person is like the most important thing to him. And, you know, he makes a comment here about how like after a few days, like you start to drive people crazy, right? Like if you're just like mooching off them and freeloading off of them. And he says like, we've only been here 2 days, so we got to start pulling our weight soon. And Sprague says, no, we've actually been here a whole week, which apparently Hop Hop just, he either isn't good at keeping track of time, or maybe the days in Amphibia are longer or something like that. I don't know. But we get this kind of really funny spit take moment, right? Where Hop Hop spits out his drink and then Polly spits out her drink. A lot of frames and a lot of expressions in this episode are really funny. And I just really love this moment too, where they're spitting their lemonade out at each other. And Hop Hop says, like, we're not just guests anymore, right? We're freeloaders now. Just like our cousin Stanley. And so they explained the story of cousin Stanley, right? Where they had this cousin here once who was freeloading with them, and he was just like using their stuff, being impolite, being inconsiderate. This really reminds me of that episode of SpongeBob, if you guys remember, where Squidward gets fired from the Krusty Krab and he ends up like living with SpongeBob, and SpongeBob has to like take care of him, and SpongeBob's like dropping all these hints about like how he should get a job. But this whole sequence just really reminded me of that episode of SpongeBob for some reason. In his defense, time flies when you're just relaxing. That's a good point too, Shia. Maybe he just like wasn't paying attention to the time and is just chilling out. I don't even really think he was our cousin. That was a funny little gag. But because the planters are just so polite and such good hosts, they had to be nice and they just put up with it, which is pretty funny and very in character for them. And they just held it out. They just held it out until he eventually left. So but he eventually left. They ended up throwing him out the window, right? Which is quite funny. But Hop Hop is remembering, you know, that feeling of resenting this freeloader and being annoyed, and the last thing he wants to do is be that person to someone else, right? Especially the Boon Choys who have been taking care of them for the past week now. You know, Hop Hop says something along the lines of like, now we're the freeloaders. We have to start pulling our weight around here. We can't just be like, you know, mooching off these people this whole time. Anne's mom comes in and reminds Anne that she has to go to the dentist. You know, she's been gone for 5 months, and so she really needs to get her teeth cleaned. Mr. Boon Choi, or Anne says something like, I have to take Domino to the vet today. Maybe your father can take her, Anne's mom says, but he's like, no, sorry, can't. I have to work at the restaurant today. And so they're in a little bit of a pickle. But of course, Hop Hop, who literally just said that he needs to start pulling his weight around here, decides that he can take it on himself and decide to take the cat to the vet. And there's a lot of questions I have here, like Anne just handing them an address and being like, "Here you go, take the cat to the vet." But like, do we know that the planters like know how to read addresses? Do we know that they know how to like find this place? I mean, obviously they do find the place by the end of the episode, but I just had like a lot of questions. I was like, how much are they just kind of like throwing them out there? Because like we saw in even just the last episode, right, that in last week's episode that the planters very much need time to adjust to Earth and to learn and to get used to it. And here already a week into being on Earth, they are getting sent off on their own solo adventures. So yeah, I kind of question their decision-making skills here a little bit, but I love Mama Boonchoy so much. Me too, Shia, me too. She's fantastic. There's no way giving them an address would work. Like they know how to read an LA map or know how to work a GPS. Yeah, even I can't get around in LA, Shia, like without using my GPS. So like I don't know how Anne expects these frogs to figure it out. But yeah, totally. I'm on the same page as you. I'm just like, how do they expect this to just go fine without any problems? And then Mr. Boonchoy gives Polly a phone, and this is kind of a funny gag with Polly, right? Where she's like, "Sweet, a burner," and I'm just kind of like, Polly, how do you know what a burner phone is? Like, girl. But yeah, it's a little fun Polly gag. They head out, and being like, "My teeth don't even hurt that much," but she's got to go to the dentist. This was a really funny gag to me, especially as someone myself who is a cat owner, as we can see here in the background. I've got my cat chilling out here. But as we all know, as cat owners, you never, ever, ever want to pet your cat on the tummy. There are certain cats that like to be pet on the tummy, but for the most part, cats do not want to be pet on the tummy. And it is a trap. Like my cat, you can see her here. She's so cute. She's so fluffy. She's so soft. And all I want to do is put my face in her tummy, but she will scratch me. She will get mad at me. She will bite me if I try to touch her tummy, and she will not be happy. And I have learned that the hard way. And the planters here have also learned that the hard way, that you cannot just pet a cat's tummy willy-nilly. I mean, Polly has probably been watching TV all week. Like 80% of it has to be crime related. That's a good point. That's a really good point, Rooster Tamer. Polly could have learned that from some crime shows. Tummy Pat's invite playtime. It's like a bear trap. Yeah, right. Exactly. You don't ever want to touch a cat's tummy, no matter how tempting and how fluffy and soft and cute it might look. You just don't want to do it. You just don't want to do it. And this was a really fun gag too, right? With the whole house shaking and Polly's like screaming like, "Blood, there's blood everywhere." Like, oh man, cats can really get violent. Cats can really let you know how they're thinking if they feel that their personal space has been invaded. So but of course, we cut to them with the cat successfully in the cat carrier. So that's quite a fun jump cut. And of course, they're all kind of like all beat up and they've got like black eyes and Hop Hop's glasses are all cracked. So yeah, quite the funny gag. Really enjoyed that as a cat owner myself. I can very much relate to having to fight with my cat to get her into the carrier. We got a nice little Suspicion Island 2 reference back here, which is fun. I wonder if we'll see the release of that at any point. All we got to do is take this bus to the vet, right? So yeah, they I don't know about y'all, but I have taken the bus in LA. I have taken public transportation in LA. The public transportation system in California and especially in LA is really, really bad. So yeah, I don't know how the Boonchoys imagine that the planters would get there without any problems. Like I really don't. It's nasty, right? Yeah, totally, Shia. It's not the best bus system in my opinion, at least not that I've used. So we just got to blend in, Hop Hop says. We just got to do what all these other people are doing. And this, they're already drawing some suspicion to themselves here, right? Hop Hop, like, this is something that comes into play later in the episode too, but we learn that he's really good at imitating like the beeping sounds that are on Earth. And so like here's kind of one thing that's already a little kind of a bit out of place, Hop, for you to have like a bulging frog what is that called? I don't even know what that's called on a frog. I don't know frog biology. Thank you, kind Earthman, they say. And, thankfully bus drivers, though, are usually pretty chill. Like, they don't usually get on your case if, like, you don't have a bus pass or if you don't have the fare. A lot of times they are willing to kind of look the other way and let you on the bus anyway. And so they're able to get on the bus and they're like, that wasn't that bad. But, of course, they have to remember that the bus is going to actually move and take them somewhere. So they go flying around all over the place, right? And Hop really should have been the one here wearing the face mask. Am I right? Because this is just disgusting. Hop's tongue physically can't stay in his mouth for some reason and ends up flying all over the bus, and he ends up licking everyone in the freaking face. He ends up smacking everyone in the face with his tongue, and he gets his spit all over the bus. Like, this is nasty. I'm honestly also concerned for Hop because who knows what kind of germs and disgusting stuff was all over that bus that he just now got into his mouth as well. Yeah, really, really nasty. Only on a bus would you get licked unprovoked. That's also true. That's also true. Nowhere else would this happen. But Spring is like, great tongue action. But of course, everyone around them is like, that is disgusting. Like, did that creepy old man just lick us? What do you have to say for yourself, dude? Right? And he tries to do the line that Anne taught him. The like, boy, could sure use a cup of coffee. But this is like the first instance where it doesn't work, right? It turns out that just saying, oh, I could use a cup of coffee doesn't actually convince people that you're a normal person. So they end up getting kicked off of the bus. So that's point number one. I just want to put a pin in, right? I just want to put that on the board and be like, interesting. They got kicked off the bus. People were not happy with them. So what do we do now? Maybe Mr. Boonchoy can give us a ride, but Hop is really adamant in not wanting to call the Boonchoys for favors, right? Like he said at the beginning of the episode, he wants to carry his weight. He wants to not have to rely on them. And so they end up, they do have a GPS on the phone, which I'm sure is very helpful, that they are able to at least get some direction. So at least that's something. I somehow missed this when I first viewed it, but they got to walk all the way there. They've got to go up these like really uphill sidewalks. They get attacked by this bird, which of course they are absolutely freaked out about because their experiences with birds are not quite like this one, right? But they have a nice fun moment where they're kind of like laughing at like, oh, haha, isn't it funny that we're scared of this little tiny baby version of this bird that's not a horrifying monster. But of course they still kind of underestimated this bird and they end up getting pecked by it anyway, which is a fun moment. I also just like want to acknowledge all the backgrounds and stuff that are in this episode. Like this really does feel like a really lived in, really like populated part of LA, right? Where we see like all these signs, we see these like food carts in the background. Just really want to give a huge shout out to the background designers and the artists on the show because like they always do a phenomenal job. And like, I just really love the aesthetic and the look of all these backgrounds that like feel very intentional. Like there's a lot of details in them. Just really, really good, really well done. Amazing work to the crew. They are almost at the vet. They're still having their troubles and stuff though, but of course they do eventually finally make it there, and they have like this cute little like victory music that plays as they get there, which is quite fun. Yeah, it's just a cute moment. And then bap goes Domino, and they end up going in, right? And this is quite funny. They see a bunch of animals, they see a bunch of dogs. The dogs are actually kind of scary looking, right? And they're kind of freaking Polly out. We see a snake slithering across the floor, and this character who we saw in the last episode, we saw her in the shopping mall episode where she was like, she's the one who had the line that was like, bada bing, right? But now she's looking for her snake. I think it's like called Bop It or something like that. She's like, has anyone seen my snake? Bop It. Um, I think just to really like illustrate, right, like how kind of scary this is, how kind of like this for the planters, right? Like all these animals are not what they're used to. Um, this whole lobby is really chaotic, and they're just like not equipped to handle it, right? Snakes and dogs have to be super uncomfortable to see for 4 foot tall frog people. Yeah, totally, Shia. As a frog, I feel like dogs and snakes are probably like the two of the scariest animals you can probably come across. And cats, of course. But this moment was really, really fun. I absolutely died of laughter at this whole bit with the frog. You know, this kid's got this like frog in his hand, and Sprig is like, our brethren. And he ends up making this eye contact with this frog. And of course, we gotta love Sprig's eyes here. He's just absolutely having a mental telepathic connection with this frog, which this just got a really good laugh out of me. I thought this was hilarious, and I also kind of felt bad for this kid, right? Like Sprig ends up kidnapping this frog and setting it free, which is like, haha, it's a very funny moment. But also this poor kid like loses his pet frog. But anyway, this was just a really funny moment. I really enjoyed it. But of course, before they can continue on, the vet ends up calling them in, and it's Domino's turn for her appointment, right? And he's like, "Well, she looks healthy. She's a little on edge, though," which makes sense for the adventure that she just had to go on. And they ask, or he asks the planters, "Do you guys have any questions?" Frog to frog communication. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening between Sprig and that frog, right? Just frog to frog telepathic communication. Um, this moment is quite funny, but also this is another one of those moments where I want to take it and put it on the board, right? I just want to put a pin in it and save it for later. That the planters are asking these kind of questions about frogs just because they are curious themselves, right? They just kind of have this moment where he's like, "Oh, this man is a frog expert. Let's ask him some questions," right? Um, and this is a really funny hop line where he's like, "What would you say to an older frog that's complaining about back problems?" And the vet's like, "The frog complains." And Hop Hop's like, "Well, no, he doesn't complain. He just holds it in like a soldier and keeps going on because he's noble like that, right?" Like, oh man, it's really, really funny. The vet doesn't notice strange frog-like people. See, that's the thing though. He does kind of notice something though, right? Like he never says it out loud where he's like, "Oh, this is weird. There's something going on here." But he does notice these things, right? Like he does kind of feel like their questions are a bit odd for one thing. He's like, "Wait, your frog is complaining?" And then, Sprig is talking about jumping, and he's like, "We want to know, can frogs like jump really high?" Because he's like, "I want to know if I can beat that record, right?" And again, like the vet is like, "That's a bit of an odd question, right? Like frogs are more known for their length of their jump than their height." But Sprig is just like, "I just want to know the numbers, man. I want to know if I could beat it." Which I would say Sprig could probably beat a normal frog when it comes to jumping capabilities because he's like 4, 5, 10 times the size of a normal frog, right? Like I don't know the math on it, but like he's huge. He's huge compared to a normal frog. I'm sure he could jump like way higher and way further than a normal frog can. Um Polly, of course, continuing her enthusiasm for the fact that she now has legs. She wants to know if frogs can grow multiple limbs because she's apparently not happy with just 2 legs. She wants more, which I thought was a little bit of a silly question considering, like, she could just look at Hop Hop and be like, "Yeah, of course, frogs don't grow any other limbs." But also, she's a kid. She's excited about her limbs, and so she clearly just wants to know if she's gonna get more, which is fun. But again, the vet is kind of like, "This is odd. This is a weird line of questioning I'm getting from these people." And even Hop Hop is like, "Do you have any medication that can make a frog look 40 years younger?" Which is really, really funny. And the vet is like, "That is very weird. Do you even have a 40-year-old frog? Like that's not normal." Um And he's like, "You have very interesting skin, and is that a fake nose?" Right? Like those are the two big things that he notices that they're not able to really provide an answer to, right? So I really wanna just acknowledge that moment and put a pin in it because I have a feeling that these little moments where Hop Hop is trying to come across as a normal human, where he's like, boy, I could sure use some coffee. It never ends up working the way he wants it to. And it doesn't end up convincing the people that, sure, they're just normal humans, right? Like, this guy doesn't go like, oh, that can't be a fake nose. He just asked for some coffee, right? Like, that's not quite how this works. So, yeah, I just want to put a pin in these moments. And I have a feeling that they're going to come back to kind of bite them in the ass later. Domino ends up slipping out of the cage, which if this happened to me, I would be absolutely freaking out. Like, thank goodness, knock on wood that I have not lost my cat at any point yet. She has not escaped. She's not gotten out. But I would absolutely like just lose my mind and like be a total mess if my cat got out. Considering like extensive knowledge of household pets like amphibians. Oh wait, hold on. If there's anybody in the human world that can look out for the planters, the vet is a smart choice. That's a good point. That's a good point. Um, the vet might be a good person to have as an ally. So I wonder if he's gonna come back later. That might be a good kind of use of his character if he ends up kind of coming back to help out the planters later. I really wonder that. Excuse me, have you seen my frog? The guy, the kid. So, they feel pretty good right now. They're like, we took Domino to the vet. We're not freeloaders anymore. Even Domino hasn't scratched us since we left the vet. And, Sprig says the line. She even feels so much lighter now, which of course causes them to stop in their tracks and check and realize that Domino is in fact missing. And they end up freaking out as well. They're like, Anne's gonna be so devastated if we end up losing her. Sprig and Polly are thinking along the correct lines, and they're like, okay, I think this is a situation that is urgent enough that warrants us calling Mr. Boonchoy for help, which I totally agree with. And Hop Hop is like, no, we need to, honor our integrity. We need to take care of this ourselves. We need to not be freeloaders. We can't rely on the Boonchoys, and we need to carry our weight, right? So let's retrace our steps. Let's look for the cat. They end up looking all around and they are not able to find her. There's a bit of a funny moment where Polly finds this possum and is like, Anne can't tell the difference, right? We can just use this as Domino. And it's like, no, Polly. She's gonna notice. um, and Hop Hop says this line that's like, there's no need to resort to calling Mr. Boonchoy. Hello, Mr. Boonchoy. So again, just that comedic timing on this episode is just really good. The quick wit is always fun. Sprig ends up calling Mr. Boonchoy, and Hop Hop isn't necessarily happy with him. But thankfully, Polly and Sprig are able to get Hop Hop to chill and, at least trap him momentarily so that Sprig can talk on the phone with Mr. Boonchoy. And thankfully, he was able to be of some assistance and let them know that Domino's favorite food is shawarma. So she's probably at the nearest shawarma restaurant, which is quite funny. I don't know if you guys have ever had shawarma. Shawarma is great. We have a couple of really good shawarma restaurants. There's a really good Persian restaurant too that's like really close to where I live. That's amazing. So yeah, if you have a shawarma place near you, I highly recommend it. Hop Hop is of course not necessarily happy that they called Mr. Boonchoy, but thankfully they got this piece of information and are able to make a plan from there and go find that cat, right? How they know where the nearest shawarma restaurant is, I don't know. Maybe they looked it up on the phone or something like that. But Polly and the possum is quite funny. So they find the shawarma place, Sherm Shawarma, and we get this again kind of funny moment with Sprig and the frog. And this moment just really tickled me, just like watching this little frog like hop away with the blush on its face. Like it's just a cute moment that I thought was fun. So we've seen a couple of these characters and stuff before, right? Like I think that it's kind of fun that we're seeing these like recurring background characters. Like this is the guy with the TV. This is the girl who was out on the street in the last episode. So yeah, like I think it's gonna I think it is important that we are seeing similar background characters. We are seeing the same background characters because again, like they are noticing things, they are acknowledging things, they are seeing things that are a little off, right? And so the fact that these are recurring background characters to me is really interesting. Domino is, of course, here, as Mr. Boonchoi did predict, and the owner of the restaurant is very happy to have her. He's like, I don't know where this cat came from, but she's bringing in the customers, so I'm not going to complain. These background characters might become actually characters because they keep coming back. Yeah, exactly, Shia. Like, I don't know if they're going to be like important to the story or important to the overall plot, but I think like it is interesting and it is worth acknowledging the fact that we are seeing the same background characters again and again because even in Wurtwood we had like this whole cast of characters that we kept seeing come up over and over again, and we like knew all of those characters. We had episodes with them, we had moments with them, we got some character growth even from some of them. So it'll be interesting to me if some of these characters in LA are going to be kind of significant in the same way that like the Wartwood background characters were. So I don't know, it's just something to think about, I guess. This guy is like, I'm gonna keep this cat forever, but then ends up leaving the cat when he hears the fire alarm. I just like was like, come on, guy, what the heck? You're just gonna abandon this cat if your restaurant's on fire? What's wrong with you? But they of course are pretty smart, the planters. They realize that there's a fire alarm here, and that since Hop Pop has this uncanny ability to recreate beeping sounds on Earth, he has this funny moment where he's like, my time has come, you know. And he is able to recreate the sound of the fire alarm. Folks are rushing out of the restaurant. This girl, Karen, aka Emily, is like, I'm still waiting for my order. And the guy's like, come on, woman, there's a fire going on here. Is it worth your life? But again, I'm kind of like, why are you just gonna abandon the cat? Come on, guy. What's wrong with you? I don't know. But this is just a funny, like, little Karen jerk, right? Like, I think that it was probably intentional, the fact that he calls her Karen and is like, come on, Karen, what's more important here? So yeah, I just thought that was funny. Hop Hop is able to successfully, recreate the noise, create the distraction. They come in and try to get the cat, but the cat, being a typical cat, right, is not going to cooperate that easily. It's not just going to be happy when you try to grab it, especially if you're trying to take your cat away from its shawarma. That cat wants its shawarma, and anyone that comes in the way is gonna get a kick in the face, as Sprig does indeed learn as he tries to grab the cat. And then again we see Polly, right, with the yarn that she has on her jacket, right? Kind of recreating the ball of yarn that we saw at the beginning of the episode, which I thought was a really fun kind of callback and way that this kind of ends up getting resolved. And also this whole animation sequence with Polly, oops, didn't mean to do that. With Polly rolling around on the ground with Domino like frantically chasing her, and like the camera, right, like kind of shaken going back and forth. That part was just amazingly animated. It was really, really funny as well. Just like Domino's face like chasing Polly was really fun. And yeah, just like seeing Polly like roll around like a little video game character was really fun too. Like, yeah, just really, really funny moment. It's for the best they rescue Domino. That guy should not be her owner. Yeah, totally, totally agree, Rooster Tamer. That guy did not have Domino's best interest in mind. All he cared about was the fact that she was getting him customers. They end up being able to successfully get Domino back in the crate, right? Which is good. The fire truck ends up showing up, and they're like, oh dang, we did create a mess, didn't we? But before they have to deal with the consequences of their actions, thankfully Mr. Boonchoi shows up on the scooter, which just in the nick of time to rescue the planters and Domino. So we are here kind of towards the end of the episode. This was my absolute favorite moment of, both of these episodes. This is a really really sweet, really heartfelt moment. Hop Hop is feeling guilty. Mr. Boonchoi is like, "Don't worry, guys, I'm gonna drop you back off before going back to the restaurant." Um, and Hop Hop is really disappointed, right? Like in himself, and he wasn't able to accomplish what he was hoping to. How once again we've inconvenienced you. You must think we're freeloaders. Like, I really identified with Hop Hop's kind of guilt here, right? Like asking for help when someone has been so kind to you, and like sometimes like asking for more help can feel really bad because you're just like, these people have helped me so much already, like I don't want to ask them for any more, right? Like, so I really did understand where Hop Hop was coming from in this episode. Like I really related to that feeling. How you must resent us freeloaders, right? And Mr. Boonchoi is not having any of it. He is like not going to let these guys feel guilty. He's not going to let these planters feel bad because of what they have done for him, right? Like Mr. Boonchoi is so serious about this. He turns on the brakes. He stops and he's like, "No, you guys listen to me. Like, you are not freeloaders. You took my daughter in for 5 months when she had nowhere else to go. She was lost. She was alone. She was like in danger. And you three took her in and looked after her and fed her and gave her a place to stay and loved her and cared for her." Like, oh my gosh, I'm tearing up just like thinking about this again. Like, this was just such a sweet moment. Um, when she needed someone the most, like you took care of her out of the kindness of your heart. And Mr. Boonchoi has this line where he's like, "You will never owe us anything ever." And like when they cut back to the planters and they're all like wide-eyed, watery-eyed, like tears coming down their face, this is exactly how I was looking throughout this whole scene as well, because like, yeah, it was just so sweet and so heartfelt. And I really love that we had this moment because like, you know, even though like it makes sense that the Boonchois and Mr. and Mrs. Boonchoi would be grateful to the planters for taking care of Anne, like we really see how that gratefulness plays into the way these characters interact with each other, right? Where Mr. Boonchoi is happy to take care of these frogs because they took care of his daughter, right? And the planters, they don't think of it that way. They don't think of like taking Anne in as like a favor that they did. They just took her in because that was the right thing to do, and they ended up loving her like family. And so of course they wanted to give her everything, right? Give her a safe place, give her food, give her the support that she needs to get back home. Like they genuinely love Anne. And like the fact that Mr. Boonchoi does acknowledge that love, and he's like, "You never have to do anything for us because you've already given us the world in keeping our daughter safe." Like, and it also just like shows how much Mr. Boonchoi and Anne's mom as well just really love their daughter, really appreciate their um just really really love their daughter, and how much they of course want her to be safe, and how much they appreciate the planters keeping her safe. So yeah, this was just a really really sweet moment, really heartfelt moment that I really appreciated in this episode. And again, just makes me really love the Boon Choi family even more, cuz yeah, it's just so lovely to see these characters interact in this way. I would love to know any of your guys' thoughts on this moment. Just let me know if you also teared up, if I wasn't the only one who cried at this moment because it was so sweet. Um, but yeah, I absolutely teared up, and Hop Hop being like, "I don't know what to say, thank you." And Mr. Boonchoi just being like, "Are you kidding? Thank you." Like it's so sweet. And I love that these characters are getting this moment, right? To just sort of be with each other and be open about how they're feeling, right? Like Hop Hop being honest about like this guilt that he's feeling, and Mr. Boonchoi being able to assure him that like he doesn't need to feel that guilt. I don't have any thoughts. I just love. Yeah, I totally agree, Shia. This was just such a great moment. I really loved it so much, and yeah, just made me really really happy. I love that the parents aren't just jokes; they're represented as parents, and they think like parents. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I feel like I talked about this. Gosh, I can't remember where I talked about this. I think I talked about it maybe during the Owl House discussion stream, but about how parents in cartoons, like in these modern cartoons these days, are really fleshed out three-dimensional characters that have flaws, make mistakes, have real genuine emotions, and like really do love and care for their children. And this is just like not something that was really there when I was watching cartoons as a kid, right? And I feel like maybe I talked about it on Twitter. I don't really remember, but I just feel like these like three-dimensional adult characters that these shows have, both with the Owl House and Amphibia, is just such an amazing way to tell a story, and such an important thing also for kids to watch, because it really does kind of show kids that like adults aren't just these like dumb, oh, they're just old and they don't get it, oh, they're just uncool and they'll never understand you. Like I feel like that's kind of how parents were represented in older cartoons, like just kind of dim-witted, they're older, they're not going to get you. um and even though a lot of those feelings can definitely like be true as a kid you can kind of feel like, oh yeah, my parents just don't understand me. Um I feel like shows like this with Amphibia and Owl House like really just show parents as these three-dimensional characters that have their own motivations and their own flaws and their own personalities, that really kind of let the kids empathize a little bit more with the adult characters. And I feel like that was really lacking from cartoons when I was a kid. And so I really love that these modern cartoons are going in that direction. And yeah, I absolutely just I love seeing these characters interact. The joke parents was funny and cathartic for kids that experience that disconnect. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Even though it can be kind of cathartic to acknowledge that disconnect, it does only kind of widen that disconnect. You're so right, Shia. I really like the way you said that. When these shows kind of portray those relationships in that way. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And I love that Amphibia doesn't do that, and the Owl House like doesn't do that, right? It's really awesome. I'm an adult and my parents don't understand me. Don't worry, Rooster. I'm in the same boat as you. My parents don't get me either. I'll like tell my mom, I'll be like, oh yeah, mom, I streamed today for like 2 to 3 hours. And she'll be like, who's watching you for 2 to 3 hours? And I'm just like, I don't know, mom. But yeah, I'm in the same boat. My mom doesn't get me either. And then of course we have to end the episode on just a really funny moment, right? Like with Anne just completely being drugged up from the dentist. And she had 8 cavities. 8 cavities after 5 months in Amphibia. And we get this like kind of just funny moment, right? Where Anne is just high off of the drugs and she's like, Domino is not just a cat. She is the alpha and omega. She is everything, right? This is just really just a fun, lighthearted way to end the episode. And I just thought it was a funny moment. That being said, I really do appreciate y'all so much. Thank you guys for hanging out and for chatting about a frog show with me for 2 hours. I really do appreciate that. I really can't understate how much I appreciate that enough. Of course, we know that Anne's parents love her, but they also do have their limits for how much they want to deal with her. So when she's all drugged up on the pain meds, they're like, oh, can you guys actually keep her busy for a bit? Okay, thanks, bye. which is really funny. And Hop Hop just being like, can you let go of my face now? And Anne being like, nope, never, we are one. Which is just a really, really sweet, really fun just ending gag. And of course we gotta end, we could not end this cat episode without the shot of Domino licking her butthole, which is of course classic cat move. Classic cat to just come right in front of our faces and lick herself in the way that cats do. Um so yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was so fun. I also love that these were more lighthearted episodes, right? We didn't really see anything too crazy happen here, but I also do think that we're building to something bigger. We're only in the third episode of the season, so of course stuff isn't gonna get too crazy yet. Um, and we are kind of slowly building our way up to kind of the bigger stuff that we're obviously going to see later on in the season. But they are also starting to drop these little nuggets. They are starting to drop these little hints of bigger things to come. The fact that throughout this episode, Hop Hop continuously failed to convince people that he was a human, and the fact that they weren't able to get away with their weird froggy behavior, I think is definitely going to come back into play later. And like I said, I wonder if these background characters, or the vet or the restaurant owner, or any of these randos that are just like in the background, I wonder if they're going to come back and play any significant part in the plot as well. um yeah, there's a lot of stuff I think to look forward to. We still have to find the robot, the evil Frobo that's been chasing them. We still don't know where he is. He's off like repairing himself somewhere. He's probably going to be coming back sometime soon. Meanwhile, in Amphibia, Sasha is finally getting her rebellion started and working towards fighting back Andreas. We still don't really know what's going on with Marcy, although we have some ideas of what might happen with Marcy based off of some of the previews that we've gotten so far. Yeah, I would love to know if you guys have any theories of like what we might be seeing in the upcoming episodes. Let me really quick check to see. So we've got Fight at the Museum and Temple Frogs. Oh, Fight at the Museum. So there is that character in the intro that she's wearing like a yellow shirt with like dinosaur bones on it. So I wonder if we're going to get to see that character in next week's episode, because it seems that we're going to get this museum episode next week. So yeah, she's one of the characters that is in the intro as well. So I wonder if she's going to be a major character this season. Temple Frogs is also really interesting. Do we have episode synopsises for these? Fight at the museum. Anne and the planters try to rob a museum. Okay, so maybe they end up finding something related to Amphibia, or some kind of hint that there could be something at the museum that could help them get back to Amphibia. So maybe that's what's going to happen there. And then Temple Frogs. The Boon Choys take the planters to a Thai temple. Oh, that's going to be fun. Like I said, I really love how much we see Anne's heritage and her culture in the show, with the Asian supermarket, with all the little knickknacks that we see around their house, all these little elephants in the background. So yeah, I'm curious to know if what more we're gonna see, at the Thai temple. That'll be really, really cool. I'm excited for that episode. Depending on how the season ends, it's possible that one of the Owl House specials is a crossover because of how Amphibia and the Owl House portals work. Maybe that would be fun. But otherwise, IDK, how this Amphibia season's gonna play out. Yeah, again, this is one of those shows that continues to surprise me in a lot of ways, much in the same way that that Owl House does too. So I don't want to make too many predictions, but it is kind of fun theorizing and coming up with stuff. Just based off of the title, I'm excited for next week. Yeah, me too. I'm really, really excited for next week. That'd be so great. Plus, someone pointed out the world has boiling isles colors. Oh, is that true? That's kind of fun. Yeah, I love how many references there are to Amphibia and the Owl House in both of the shows, like to each other. Like, it's just really fun that like the show creators are like friends. It's like Tom was saying earlier, right? Like they're all just kind of friends, and they love like putting Easter eggs in each other's shows, and yeah, it's just really fun and really sweet to see. Um, but hey, maybe we'll see another crossover at some point. That would be really fun. But yeah, I would love to know any of your guys' additional theories, whether that's in the chat or whether you want to chat about it later in the Discord server. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts, predictions, all of that good stuff. What's going to happen later on in the season? Yeah, I'm really looking forward to next week's episode. I really am curious about what they're going to find at the museum. And I'm really excited to see the Thai temple. I think that'll be really, really fun. Yes, and thank you, Shia, for dropping that Discord link. Show Hunter Sprig. He's gonna remember his plushie and have a crisis. That's right. There's a little Sprig plushie in Hunter's room. Oh my god, that's funny. That's funny. And then of course on Sunday we'll be doing our next weekly Amphibia discussion stream talking about the next 2 episodes, which I'm very much looking forward to. So yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. Have a wonderful rest of your week. I hope it's not too stressful. Hope it's not too busy. Hope we're all able to get some chance to relax. But yeah, really, really appreciate y'all for hanging out with me today. This was a lot of fun. Sorry that you are at the end here, Morgan, but hopefully next week you'll be able to join us. Stay safe, wear a mask if you're going out, get vaccinated if you're able to, stay hydrated, don't do anything I wouldn't do, all that good stuff. And yeah, have a good rest of your week, everyone. Stay safe and take care, everyone. Bye.